Hey gang, and welcome back. These videos are brought to you by Card Conduit, the best place to sell your unused collection fast and easily. 401 Games, Canada's top shop for all your hobby and TCG needs. Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest decks. Moxfield, the easiest way to store and share your deck lists. Chloe wins the die roll and starts us off. She draws, plays a swamp, and passes. Ben's turn also has a swamp coming in, which he taps for a Soul Ring, and then taps the Soul Ring for Strionic Resonator, passing after that. Chris just plays a Llanowar Wastes. Morgan plays an Adhikar Wastes, and casts his own Soul Ring. With the Soul Ring, Morgan then taps it for 2, and puts 1 into the each X of Everflowing Chalice. He then taps the Chalice to cast Millennium Calendar, and passes. Chloe's got a Plains, paying 2 for an Arcane Signet. Ben just plays a Swamp. Chris draws and has a Forest, and pays 2 for Ozolith Shattered Spire. Morgan untaps, putting 3 counters onto the Millennium Calendar and drawing for turn. He then plays a tapped Glittering Massif, and casts one of the other win cons in the deck with a Darksteel Reactor. Chloe plays a Plains and casts Sign in Blood, targeting herself. She loses 2 and draws 2. She then casts a Helpful Hunter, drawing another card and passing. Ben plays a Swamp and ships it after that. Chris has got a Swamp as well, and then casts Selvala. Morgan's upkeep has him putting counters on the calendar as he untaps, and 1 onto the Darksteel Reactor, and then draws for turn. He plays an untapped Witch Blessed Meadow, and follows up by casting Kilo, which draws a card off of Selvala. Going to combat, Morgan then hits Ben for 3 with Kilo, and as he attacks, proliferates his counters. After that, Morgan passes. Chloe's got a Plains and casts Syr Vondam. She then pays enough for Lurrus to go to her hand, and discards down to hand size as she passes turn. Ben draws and casts Belzenlok, drawing off Selvala, and then losing 4 total to his trigger as it comes in. He then follows up with losing another 4 by casting Snuff Out on Kilo. He ships it after that. Chris draws and puts a counter onto Selvala with the Ozolith, and then activates Selvala to help cast Cleopatra. He continues his turn by playing a tapped Golgari Rot Farm, bouncing a land back to hand. He then moves to end step. He strikes a deal with Ben to put a counter from Cleopatra onto Belzenlok to avoid an attack for a turn, and Ben agrees, which has Chris putting a counter onto Belzenlok and Selvala before passing. During the end step, Morgan activates the Millennium Calendar, doubling the number of counters on it. Morgan untaps, ticks up his counters, and draws. He casts a Cryogen Relic, drawing as it enters. He then plays an Inventor's Fair, and pays 2 for Pentan Prism, putting 2 different colors into it so it adds 2 counters to it as it comes in. He then removes a counter from it to cast Uthros Researchcraft, and passes. Chloe draws and casts a Chthonian Nightmare, getting some energy as it comes in, and then sacrifices the Helpful Hunter to bring back Lurrus from her graveyard. She then casts Jolted Awake, targeting the Helpful Hunter, and it comes back and draws her a card. She then plays a Plains for turn, and then casts a Night's Whisper, drawing 2 and losing 2. Chloe passes after that. Ben's got a Swamp, and just casts a Twilight Prophet, and passes. Chris's turn has Surak and Goreclaw coming in, and he then plays a Swamp. He continues by activating the Ozolith, targeting Cleopatra. Once that's done, he casts Vraska Joins Up. With it on the stack, Chloe responds by casting Swords to Plowshares and targets Surak and Goreclaw. It gets exiled, with Chris gaining some life. And Vraska Joins Up comes in and gives his legendary creatures the Death Touch counter. Chris then moves to combat. He swings Cleopatra at Morgan for 4. Morgan takes the hit, and Chris then passes, and during the end step, Morgan activates the Millennium Calendar to double the counters on itself. Morgan untaps and adds more counters to his calendar, then draws for turn and recasts Kilo. He then stations Uthros with Kilo and proliferates as he taps his commander. He follows up by casting a long-range sensor, and then plays a Battlefield Forge as his land for turn. Chloe draws, plays a swamp, and recasts her Chthonian Nightmare. This time around she sacrifices the Helpful Hunter, bringing back Reassembling Skeleton, and then recasts the Nightmare, sacrificing the Skeleton to bring back the Helpful Hunter, drawing again off the cat. She then continues by casting a Blood Artist, and swings Syr Vondam at Morgan, and Lurrus goes at Chris. They each take their hit, with Chloe gaining some life from Lurrus. Ben's got a swamp, and has achieved City's Blessing. He then casts Cauldron of Souls, and going to combat, swings Belzenlok at Morgan for 7. Chris draws and plays a High Market, and then casts Rishkar. He puts a counter onto itself, and a counter onto Selvala, and then activates Selvala to make enough mana to cast Razaketh. Ben responds to this with bonus Hunger, and everyone's forced to sacrifice half their creatures since he has City's Blessing. Chloe in turn drains Morgan for 1, and Chris and Ben for 2 with the Blood Artist triggers. Chris also gets to draw 2, and loses 4 off Cleopatra's triggers, seeing stuff getting taken out with counters. Razaketh then enters, and Chris passes, and once more, Morgan activates the Millennium Calendar again. Morgan untaps, adding more counters to the Millennium Calendar, and then draws her turn, and recasts Kilo. This has him drawing off the Uthros Research Craft, and giving it another counter. He then plays Karn's Bastion, and stations the Uthros Research Craft with Kilo. This in turn has him proliferating, and he then continues his turn by cracking a Cryogen Relic to put a stun counter onto Belzenlok. He then casts a Mindless Automaton. Once it's out, he stations the Uthros Research Craft with it, and it's finally a creature. With nothing else, Morgan passes. Chloe draws and plays a Swamp, and then casts Zulaport Cutthroat. She then casts Helping Hand to get back the Helpful Hunter, and follows it up with a Chthonian Nightmare. She then swamps the Helpful Hunter for her Blood Artist with the Nightmare, draining the table for 1 with Zulaport Cutthroat. She then casts Mother of Ruins. Once that's done, she puts to stack an Infernal Grasp, targeting Razaketh. With Razaketh getting taken out, she drains Morgan for 1 with the Blood Artist trigger. Moving to combat, Chloe then swings Lurrus at Chris and Syr Vondam at Ben. They each take their hit for damage, with Chloe gaining some life, and then passing turn. Ben copies his Twilight Prophet trigger in his upkeep, hitting Liliana of the Dark Realms and Platinum Empyrean, dealing a total of 12 to each opponent's. He then draws her turn, playing a Bojuka Bog, which comes in tapped and exiles Chloe's graveyard. He follows up by casting Corrupt and targets Morgan. Morgan is ready though, countering it with a Swan Song to save himself, and Ben gets a 2/2 bird and passes after that. Chris draws and recasts Cleopatra, and we also realize that Morgan should have gained some life from the Inventor's Fair triggers on his last few upkeeps, and then follows up with Witch King of Angmar. He then plays a Forest Return. He then makes another deal with Ben to pump Belzenlok for no attacks, and after Ben agrees, does so and pumps it and the Lich King before passing to Morgan. Morgan untaps and continues to uptake his calendar, draws for turn, and in his main phase sacrifices Inventor's Fair to get Crystalline Crawler. He then casts the Crawler, putting 3 colors into it, so it enters with 3 counters, and then stations the Research Craft with Kilo to proliferate. He then continues, casting Penum's Aura and targets Kilo. This has Chris responding by sacrificing Selvala to High Market, drawing 7 off of Cleopatra. Chloe also drains Morgan for 1, but Chris can't find an answer, and with the Aura resolving on Kilo, Morgan has assembled the combo, which allows him to untap Kilo with the Aura, and is then able to tap it to crew up the Uthros Research Craft, proliferating, which adds a counter to his Crystalline Crawler, which he then can remove to untap Kilo. This is Infinite Proliferates, which allows Morgan to win through the Dark Seal Reactor, but I'm just going to pretend that he won with the Millennium Calendar instead. Game review time. The card of the game for me was the Millennium Calendar. For only 1 mana, you get to do 3,000 damage, which is just incredible. It's almost as good as Lightning Bolt. But joking aside, it was probably Penum's Aura, or several other cards that Morgan played. The deck just worked really well. That's not to say that everyone else's deck didn't work really well. Belzenlok certainly did a lot of damage, and it seemed like Chloe's deck was getting to really grind out value with the Chillian Nightmare, and getting bigger and bigger with Syr Vondam. Even Cleopatra was doing great things with Razaketh, and all the counters that he was getting. It was just unfortunate that no one could stop the combo as it was going off, and Chris even dug for it. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.